Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here at my next Steven Universe episode review. This one's going to be for Season 4, Episode 17, Storm in the Room. And overall, this was not a pretty good episode of Steven Universe. There was nothing overly bad about this episode, but I think coming out of this episode, I think to myself, what did I actually gain in terms of knowledge about the characters, knowledge about the series from this episode? And I think it pretty much comes down to very little. And that's always been this show's problem. Continuing plots, having each episode be notable, and especially in this kind of section of Season 4, where there's a lot in the background that could instantly make the plot important. We are just waiting for the diamonds to come to Earth. Why has that not happened yet? We're getting really close to the end of this season and we just have no idea when this stuff is coming. There's been hints and hints and hints, but nothing yet. That it feels like those episodes like Bismuth and a lot of the episodes from the end of Season 3 were so long ago, when they weren't really. So where's the continuation of that stuff? And look, admittedly, this episode tried to deal with the Rose stuff, but I think it tried to deal with it in the worst way, where it just teased it, and it was just a delay on giving us any information on Rose, that relationship, and so on. In that, it basically, all this episode served to do was to say that, hey, Steven is very confused about how to feel about Rose, which is basically the entire show. That's always been the way he's felt about Rose. He's never really known how to kind of truly feel about her because he never knew her. The little bits he found out about her are just that she's either this really, really kind person, or more recently, that because she was the leader of a rebel faction in the war, that she potentially had to do some bad stuff, and he's getting mixed messages from both sides and doesn't really know what way to feel. And this episode was just kind of more of a visual representation of that. I like that this episode kind of had the theme of moms. Of that, I liked a little bit at the start with Connie getting very worried about what's up with her mother, and then when Connie's mom actually arrived, and Steven witnessed that really nice kind of mother-daughter relationship between the two of them, and was kind of oh, I don't actually kind of have one of these. I don't know what it's like to have a mom and have a kind of moment like this. And so he kind of goes into Rose's room and kind of wants a little bit of that. But I think the problem with the episode is that because of the nature of Rose's room, it is just Steven's thoughts on Rose rather than it being Rose herself. And yes, there was a hint that towards the end, aspects of the real Rose kind of came out to kind of try and confirm Steven's thoughts on how he feels about his mother. But fundamentally, I think at some point we kind of need to see some sort of a communication between Steven and Rose to kind of find out about this, because when you think about this moment is kind of big. Whenever this happens, whenever Steven gets to reveal about what Rose actually did, they need to get that absolutely right. This is a huge aspect of the show now, whatever they're planning to do with this Rose reveal, because this has been multiple episodes set up of Steven finding out bad things about Rose, but there's also been episodes where he's found out good things about her. You have to now commit to exploring that. And when I say explore that, I mean actually show what happened in the past. I will not be happy if this show just doesn't show us a flashback moment of what happens. I think we need an episode set in the past about what actually happened. I think we need an episode where Steven actually talks to Rose somehow, whether that be some form of meditation thing where he can talk to the gem and talk to whatever is left of Rose because he is Rose, or whatever way you want to do it. Because they're getting away with stuff here in this show that I don't really like. That, to me, this episode was, oh, we'll do our usual thing where we have this really unique take on characters' emotions, and we always have like the characters very open about how they feel and stuff. But this episode was just kind of like, oh, Steven's crying again. Okay. Like, that you joked about that in the very last episode, pretty much, that Steven cries a lot, with like Connie trying to kind of act like him. And then here he immediately is crying again to not much effect. Like, can we please just kind of advance the plot and get to a point where like these emotions actually kind of really mean something? Like, this is just repeating stuff that we've already seen before, and it's getting very frustrating, I think, to watch this show. That like it really feels like we're just going through the motions with these episodes. That it's just episodes for the sake of episodes, and that there's no real meaning behind these episodes. Because look what's coming up next. We now know a little bit of the schedule. The next episode is called Rocknaldo, and the description we have is Ronaldo sets out to find all the rock people living in Beach City. I don't really care about Ronaldo as a character. This seems interesting enough in that he's gonna try and find out about the gems, but doesn't seem all that interesting to me. And then 19, Tiger Philanthropist, Steven Tries Pro Wrestling. Like, okay, that was a fun episode back in like season 1. Why do we need a follow-up to that when what we want is plot? To me, these next 2 episodes have the potential to be the worst timed episodes of Steven Universe, like, in the entire series. And that's the problem. This show can be really, really good at times, but too often than not, it just doesn't have any sense of like a through line between episodes, that it's continuous, that they're aware of the show that they have, they're aware of what the audience finds interesting within the show. Because I think the show could be brilliant, absolutely amazing, if it was more focused. Right now it just isn't, and it feels like it is written by writers who are not focused as well. That it feels like the writers are just like, oh, what are we going to do this episode? Oh, this thing. Like, as if, almost like they don't have it planned out. It kind of feels like that to a degree. And again, I want to come back to the fact with this episode. I didn't think this episode was bad. Like, it was fun, it was cute. There were interesting aspects to it with trying to approach this idea of Steven finally just going into Rose's room and kind of asking, I want to see my mom. And him kind of having to accept that anything he sees in there is only ever going to be Rose based on the little aspects of Rose that he knows about, and potentially the little true aspects of who she is based on the fact that Steven has kind of like, Steven is Steven because Rose has kind of turned into Steven to a degree. I like the little continuity moments of like, in the end, Rose kind of saying, the tape I left you, that is real. But as I said, in the end, like, Steven, I don't think thinks any differently about Rose from the start of this episode compared to the end of this episode. It just was a repetition of how he feels, kind of presented in a slightly clearer way, rather than us just piecing together how he feels based on the fact that he's had such mixed messages about his mother and who she is. As I said, I like this setup of Connie and her mother leading to Steven wanting to explore that relationship a little bit. I liked at the end that he comes out of the room and almost immediately his father, Greg, comes back, as well as the other gems, and he realizes that he has family outside of his mother, but it still leaves Rose unresolved. So for me, I'm just like, get the plot going sooner rather than later. Don't leave everything to like a double length episode right at the end. Don't leave everything to be done in like a Bismuth style episode. Don't leave everything to be done in like the 2 finale episodes. Use the fact that after episode 19 you have like 7 episodes left. Use those 7 episodes and have the conclusion of season 4 continue. Like, do we know if there's a season 5 or what? I'm not even sure at this point. Yeah, so I'm just going to end the video there. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on the show, and especially what your thoughts are on kind of like season 4 where it is right now. Are you frustrated with the kind of their kind of approach to airing episodes, the approach to writing a continuous story, or are you actually okay with the way it is? Are you fine with the kind of more fillery-like episodes that are coming up, or what? Let me know in the comments below. But that has been the video for today. Thanks for watching, and bye.